It is finally here. Training camp 2023 opens this week for your San Francisco 49ers. Some key dates, what it's going to look like, overall feelings on what to expect from the San Francisco 49ers at Training Camp 2023. Coming up on today's Locked On 49ers.
You are Locked On 49ers, your daily San Francisco 49ers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome to Locked On 49ers. Brian Peacock and Eric Crocker at BD Peacock at Eric_Crocker on all your socials. Thank you so much, everybody, for making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL. That's linkedin.com/LockedOnNFL to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. Croc, how'd it go? How'd you feel running the show for a couple of days? It was so weird for me doing this for years and years, and I rarely take any days off from doing the pod during the week, and it was kind of strange not doing a pod for a couple of days. And I listened to the Winky Wednesday, and Croc is the first voice you hear, and it was a fun episode. I loved listening to it, so it was fun being on the other side and just kind of driving in the car, coming back from the mountains, and listening to Winky Wednesday featuring Eric Crocker and no Brian Peacock.
I know it was definitely interesting. It was kind of foreign for me, especially having a conversation with Winky without you being there. That's something that has never happened. I think there were a couple of times where you were like sick, and maybe I did host one show with Jason Aponte. That was like one time though. I mean, within the 2 years we've been doing this. So
I did have COVID that one time. I forgot about that.
Yeah.
No, that was good stuff, man. It's camp week. We're here, man. We're vacationed up, and it's time to start training camp. Tuesday, training camp officially opens. Rookies already there at camp for the San Francisco 49ers. First practice will be Wednesday, and then you're off and running. There's 2-a-day practices, and there's going to be tons of fun stuff to get into, especially with Jimmy G now being cleared and the joint practices and preseason games with the Raiders as well. But Croc, and it kind of ties into the Jimmy G thing, and I want to get to that in a minute. But what are your overall thoughts about the 49ers heading into training camp right now? Because I was thinking about this on vacation, about the 49ers, and the talking point right now, especially as it pertains to the quarterbacks, is okay, Brock Purdy, when healthy, he's going to be the starter. And then and I realized, every year we go through this where we think it's going to be normal. No way in hell it's going to be normal. It is going to be bonkers, chaos, crazy season, just like it always is, right? Just like it was in 1990 with Joe Montana and Steve Young, just like it was in 1998 with Steve Young getting knocked out, and then all of a sudden it's like a new era of 49ers football, and just like it was in the early 2000s and Jeff Garcia's come up, and then just like it was in 2005 and Alex Smith era in 2008, and then 2012 with Kaepernick, and then every single year from 2017, 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021, 2022 of the Kyle Shanahan era, it's not going to be that easy. So I can't wait to see what throws us for a loop this season, but something clearly is. And even if the quarterback room seems set before the season, if there's good news when camp opens and good news about Brock Purdy and he's cleared and we think he's going to be the number one guy, it's just not going to go that easy, because it never does with this team.
It never does. And I think it is exciting. Just the team in general should be exciting for a lot of fans, just what to kind of expect. You assume that this is going to be a really good team on the field, and it starts with training camp, and it really starts with the quarterback position. I guess right now, two guys trying to fight for, does it start with the second string and then see if you can work your way up from there? Is that how these quarterbacks are looking at it? So, Sam Darnold Trey Lance, like, can I solidify myself as QB2? And then from there, it's like, okay, now I have my sights set on QB1, depending on what's going on with Brock Purdy.
The final boss, is it like a video game thing where you got to beat the lower level boss, then you got to go beat the final boss at the end? Or are you just trying to be the straight up boss from the beginning? I don't know. I would imagine the way to go about it from the player's mindset is I'm competing to be number one, the guy. Brock's not even here. So I'm taking the first reps of camp. I am QB1 right now, and I'm going to play so well, and I'm going to prove that I should continue to be QB1 into the season. I think that's probably the mindset. Now, I don't know what the mindset is from the team and how they're going to decide on things and how that looks. If it's more like and probably it is for Kyle, if we're believing everything that, okay, as long as Brock Purdy's healthy, he's going to be the dude. But right now, these guys are battling for number 2, but there's no number 1 here right now.
Who do you think is first snaps, first day?
Just like it was in the spring, I think it'll be Trey. That's one of the things that's happened over the course of the spring, and some of the national reporters talking about Sam Darnold. And even if the 49ers are excited about Sam Darnold, there's nothing that could have or should have changed when they're rolling around in shorts in Santa Clara over the springtime. It's just a handful of practices, right? So there's nothing that should have changed. It was Trey that took the first snap and the first reps. And then remember, Kyle was asked about it. He said, oh, yeah, we're going to get Sam some first string reps as well. And he did get some, but it was Trey first. So it should be Trey first when camp does open later this week.
All right. Yeah, that's probably what I'm expecting to see as well. Now, I guess as it pertains to Trey Lance, what are you expecting or wanting to see out of him? Because I think that's the broad kind of picture. Some people want to see this flash. Some people want to just see, is he making the layup throws more consistently? For me, I think it's just more how he just conducts himself. Does he look like a veteran? Does he look like a guy that's been in this system for his third offseason now? So, does it look just more normal, more natural with him at the quarterback position? I think that's what that's going to be my biggest takeaway as it pertains to Lance.
And that's a big part of QB1. How does he carry himself? Does he feel comfortable? Does he look like QB1? Not from a necessarily a performance standpoint, but that too. But how's he carrying himself? Does he know exactly what he needs to do? Is he the leader of everybody? Is he commanding what he needs to command? And yeah, is the ball going where it's supposed to go? Because so much is talked about his delivery and his windup and footwork and all these things. And sure, it's important. There's going to be some things I'm going to be watching with Trey Lance that are important. But does the ball go where it's supposed to go from a mental standpoint and a physical standpoint? Right? I don't care what the delivery looks like as long as the ball gets there. So I'm looking more for that. Like, is he missing guys high? Is he not putting the ball in the right places? And we don't really know what the progressions are going to be. So that's one of the hard things about camp. It's like, oh, so-and-so looked good, but Kyle might be over here saying, well, he wasn't making the right reads and he wasn't doing things exactly the way I wanted to, which is maybe why in our minds watching Brock Purdy at camp, he didn't really stand out to us at camp, and there wasn't many reports. People were like there were some practices where like, yeah, Brock Purdy's okay, might make the team kind of thing, but it wasn't like, oh, this guy's going to be a stud. But Kyle might have been looking at it completely differently than you're looking at it at camp and saying, oh man, this guy's got it down already. And he's going through these plays and progressions exactly how I want him to. So that's kind of, we won't quite know that, but just how comfortable Trey Lance is, how he's carrying himself, and where's the ball going? Is the ball getting where it's supposed to be, or is he going to have trouble with his accuracy? So that'll be huge for me to watch with Trey Lance.
It feels like there's been a lack of quarterback, wide receiver camaraderie this past offseason, and not like in a bad way, but usually you see the videos and the photos of guys working out together, and I don't remember seeing that this offseason. I don't remember seeing that this summer from 49er guys.
You know what? That reminds me of something else I wanted to talk about offseason stuff and why I'm so glad training camp is actually here, Croc. So next, let's get into that. What are we seeing on the gram versus what is reality? And yeah, we don't have that quarterback wide receiver hype, the hyped up connection like we had last year with Ayuk and Trey Lance. We don't have that coming into camp this year. So Jimmy G cleared. Talk Raiders, 49ers, joint practices, preseason football. Next. Today's episode of Locked On 49ers is brought to you by LinkedIn Jobs. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business, and really it's no different than football, right? You want to make sure those hires you made at the NFL draft are the right employees for you when your business's version of training camp gets going. When you are really in need of those employees, you want to be 100% certain you have access to the best qualified candidates available, and that's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the right people for your team faster and for free. All you do is you add your job to the purple hashtag hiring frame to your LinkedIn profile, and that spreads the word that you're hiring. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on just the right candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and eventually hire. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs #1 in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the qualified candidates you want to talk to faster. Just post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedonnfl. That's linkedin.com/lockedonnfl to post your job for free. Terms and conditions apply. One of the funniest things, and it's so hard for football fans, and it's kind of a year-long sport, but you do get that lull, and it happens. We're kind of coming out of it now, right? It happens June, especially late June, July. Nothing's happening on the field. Everything's kind of in your mind as a fan, right? And you get these weird conversations about, oh, what ifs here, what ifs there. You get reports from the media, oh, is Sam Darnold there? It's like, well, yeah, nothing's happening right now. Like there's no gains happening. The gains are happening secretly and silently, but we get to see a peak of that now that we didn't before with social media. And one of the funniest things I see, and it happens with everybody, and everyone's so hyped up about it, it's like, oh, Debo's in the lab, right? And you see like one rep of one workout, and everyone's like, oh, dang, here comes Debo, right? It's a huge year for Debo. I don't know what he's doing. I saw one rep of one workout, but like everyone gets so hyped on the player workouts, and you see Nick Chubb squatting 600 pounds on this floppy. Where did that come from, by the way? The floppy bar on the what is that?
I don't know. I've never messed with one of those. So I use the standard barbell, 45-pound or Olympic barbell, not the floppy thing.
No floppy bells for Eric Crocker. But yeah, so that's why I'm so glad we get to see him on the field. So you have something to actually analyze, because that's where my mind is. And I'm more analyst when it comes to this. And so getting hyped about seeing a guy's workout that he's, posted on the gram, it's like, man, yeah, I don't know. It doesn't do anything for me. So I'm kind of glad that season is now over, and we're going to get some actual reports from camp and see these guys working out.
I was on Twitter the other day and I saw Chad Ochocinco, aka Chad Johnson. Someone had asked him a question about how serious did he take preseason. He was like, man, I took preseason very seriously. He said, that was a time for Carson and I to really get on the same page and really build this like camaraderie. And that's the one thing right there that the 49er players just haven't truly had, not just from a sense of preseason, but just training camp in general, just my quarterback, my receiver, and we're just going to work nonstop to make sure that we're on the same page. And it feels like the 49ers spend an entire season trying to figure that camaraderie out, depending on who the quarterback is. I think that's probably an underrated aspect of what Kyle Shanahan is working with. Most guys just work with each other. Think about in Atlanta, Matt Ryan, Julio Jones. I mean, prior to Kyle Shanahan showing up, they had played 4 or 5 seasons together. 4 or 5 off seasons together, 4 or 5 training sessions away from the football field, and then the actual seasons. And Kyle just hasn't been able to even build that, where this quarterback just knows exactly how this receiver wants this and wants that. And I don't know if any of our listeners out there right now have been around like guys at a high level, like a quarterback and receiver that function at the highest level. They work on all the little like meticulous things as it pertains to their connection and understanding, hey, if the defensive back is right here, I'm going to throw it to you right here. And they work it and they rep it and they rep it. And I think that's the part where the 49ers are kind of missing. They just don't. They don't have that. So we want to see our guys take off, especially the receivers. The Madden ratings were a big thing last week. And it's like, man, you want to see those Madden ratings go up? Get a quarterback and receiver that are able to work together in the offseason so they can really showcase that during the actual football season. And then you see the stats go up and then you see better ratings.
I'm trying to think back. So obviously Trey had at least last offseason, and there was a bunch of hype. Remember with obviously Debo's coming off the huge year. There was tons of hype with Ayuk and Trey Lance working out together. It was like, okay, maybe this is going to be the connection, a little bit more of a downfield threat and a bigger arm quarterback now for the 49ers. And so that happened at least during the offseason for Trey Lance, and he was having an opportunity to throw these guys and of course preseason and into the season, but then got hurt early on in week 2. And that was it for the rest of the year until this offseason again, with Jimmy G's injuries, and
Jimmy G doesn't answer his phone. That's like a real thing, I guess. I heard Kyle Juszczyk talking about it, and he said they were asking him, Haberman and Middlecoff. They asked him if he had heard from Jimmy G. He's like, I ain't really hear from Jimmy G when he was on our team, so I'm definitely not getting a call back now. So I don't know if Jimmy was doing a whole lot of working out with the guys. I know he had the one time in Tennessee, and then Debo broke his foot. Richie James did something to his hand, and then it's like, okay, never heard about any offseason workouts again with Jimmy G involved.
So there's with the injuries to Jimmy G, to Trey, Brock Purdy now doesn't have an offseason. Like there's no opportunity to build that camaraderie. And even thinking back to, and this kind of goes back to my original thought with the 49ers this year, it's always bonkers. And the 49ers have not, in this era of football, had an opportunity to just have a season and an off season in a row. That's never happened, right? 2020, Jimmy got hurt. So 2018, Jimmy was hurt. When did he come back in 2019?
So
was he there for all of camp in 2019? That was Bosa's rookie year. They went from drafting number 2 overall to go into the Super Bowl in 2019. Did they get an off season, off season again, all in a row, like a calendar full year of healthy quarterback? You're the starter, and you know who your receivers are.
No, he got kind of an off season, but he was recovering from the ACL from 2018.
Right. Okay.
So then 2019 started, and he was kind of working his way back in still. And then the season came, and it took him a little while to get up to speed. And then boom. So then he had that season, and then he had the next offseason, but then he got hurt, week 2? I'm going to say he had the high ankle sprain.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Against the Jets. And then from there on, it just continued to kind of get weird. He was kind of in and out of the lineup and didn't play a full season. So I don't know if they've ever had just, full season, full off season, full season, full off season with the same quarterback. And for most teams, that's just the standard. That's just the norm. And it hasn't been that way with the Niners.
And unless it's Trey Lance, that's the starter, they're still not going to have it going into next year because Brock missed all of this offseason. So
they still won't have it because they didn't have a full season last year. So,
That's true. So it is difficult to build that camaraderie. Yeah. And it's so important for the 49ers to get that and have something set at quarterback. But when you put it that way, Croc, and it's not really the thing I had thought about was that connection between the receivers and the quarterback. It's not just having the healthy quarterback and knowing who the quarterback is. It's building that thing where you can know blindfolded where that receiver is going to be when he's running a certain route. And it's still going to take time for the 49ers to have that. And they can't build it right now with Brock Purdy. If he is the guy week 1, they're not building it this offseason.
I would say the one thing that maybe, now that I'm thinking about it, makes it a little bit different for the 49ers is that the scheme is more, or it's more scheme dependent, as opposed to receivers just consistently have to win one-on-one matchups and attacking those one-on-one matchups. So that might be the thing where Kyle would tell you, it doesn't matter as much as long as the quarterback just makes the right read. Then the guy's going to be there. He's going to be open. As opposed to, like, let's say Aaron Rodgers up there in New York.
I was going to say with Devontae Adams, because he would just look at him at the line of scrimmage and they knew what they were doing, and maybe nobody else, including the coach, knows what's about to happen. But they look at each other, they know what's about to happen right now.
Right. And okay, so that's a perfect example. Aaron Rodgers in Green Bay. Similar offense as the 49ers, but the way they were able to kind of tweak things, and that's probably the next phase to it that the 49ers just can't get to because they can't have a quarterback start 2 full straight seasons. But hey, we're going to do this. And it's just me and you now. It's a one-on-one. I just know if he's like this, I'm going to throw it like this. Or if he's like this, I'm going to throw it to you like this. And the 49ers they just haven't had that. And that's really, I guess, cool to see because they've had a certain level of success that they've been able to have without having that type of camaraderie between the receiver and quarterback. Now, my thing is, what if they did have it? I mean, are we talking about, Mahomes, Travis Kelce type success? Not saying like in the sense of what it looks like or yardage, but just, hey man, we're able to go above and beyond because we just know how to work off of each other.
All right, next, Croc. Jimmy Garoppolo did pass his physical. He's going to, unlike with the 49ers last year, he's going to start training camp healthy for his new team, the Las Vegas Raiders. And man, how interesting are those joint practices and preseason games now going to be with those Las Vegas Raiders next? Thanks again, everybody, for making Locked On 49ers your first listen every day. Shout out to all the everydayers out there all around the world. We appreciate you making us your first listen here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Make sure you're subscribed up on YouTube and everywhere you get your podcasts. Jimmy Garoppolo cleared. Remember last year at this time, seeing the weird Jimmy thing and not knowing what's going on, thinking he's going to be traded. He's working out on the side. That's one thing that when camp opened, what's Brock Purdy going to be doing? Is he going to be doing the Jimmy G thing where he's working out on the side, he goes away, then the players come out and have a real practice without him? Or is he going to start to be ingrained a little bit into practice? Or will that start to happen as we move on a little bit? We've already seen, and that's the thing, injuries pop up quickly. We've seen Darrell Luter, the rookies show up to camp, and guess what? Some unknown mystery injury right now for rookie Darrell Luter goes on the PUP list before camp. So that means he can come back whenever he's healthy. If you're on the PUP list before camp starts, you can come back and be activated at any time. So day 2 of camp, Darrell Luter could come back and get activated. We'll see if any other guys go on PUP. Usually it's more than one guy. So the Niners have been kind of lucky with the injury bug in the offseason so far. But if you get hurt in camp and go on the PUP list, now you're out for 6 weeks, and you have to wait into the season. And like we saw with Jimmy Ward was one of those last year where got hurt in camp, and you go on the list once camp opens. It's a different scenario for you, and you're probably going to miss some time. But Jimmy G cleared by the Las Vegas Raiders. He had that foot injury. All good now. He passed his physical. He's going to start camp with the Las Vegas Raiders, which means Croc, Nick Bosa and the gang, Eric Armstead, they're going to have a chance to go after him a little bit in those joint practices. Now, they better not touch him too much, right? Because you're still not trying to hit guys. But in the preseason game, when Jimmy G's on the field, then they can hit him. So this will be very interesting here with the Raiders. The joint practices coming up in just, a handful of days. It is August 10th and 11th, I believe, are the 2 joint practices with the Raiders in Henderson, Nevada. And then August 13th, that preseason game against the Las Vegas Raiders. How hyped are you for that one?
I'm pretty high. I'm more hyped for the practices, and I'm trying to figure out right now, like, can I get to watch these practices? The way these first of all, I got bone pick with all you like season ticket holders and some of you guys that bought these tickets and sold out within an hour of them being released. Why are y'all charging these tickets like they're Yeezys or something? Like they're $10 tickets, and then it's like, yeah, but we're selling it for $150. So anybody that has any out there, let me and Peacock know, because we'll definitely love to go, but they were sold out so fast, couldn't grab any. I'm hoping that we can grab some for Las Vegas, because I definitely will go and catch a couple of those practices, see what they look like. I think the practices will probably be more intense than the actual game in the sense of guys that are playing. I think that's what happened last year, where when the 49ers are playing the Minnesota Vikings, they had to joint practice. And because of that, none of the starters played against the Vikings. So the practice for the Jimmy G and Trey Lance and a lot of those starters is probably more important. So that's where I need to be.
That's a good call. I didn't even think about doing the Henderson, Nevada Raiders practice facility joint practices. So yeah, maybe we might have to take a little trip to Las Vegas, Croc, here.
Yeah, man, let's go.
Yeah, I'm into it. I'm pumped for camp, man. I can't wait to see these guys on the field. How do you think Jimmy G is going to do for the Raiders this year?
I think Jimmy G is going to look like Jimmy G. And for some people that's good, for some people that's bad. For me, I think it's good. I think Jimmy G is a good starting NFL quarterback. He's just not a guy that's going to take you above and beyond, right? Like he's going to need some help, which I think he has. He's going to be able to turn and hand the ball off to Josh Jacobs, who led the NFL in rushing last year. He has Colton Miller, a guy who we thought like, wow, 49ers were able to get McGlinchey. They got Miller. Now Miller's one of the best tackles in the NFL, which is crazy. You weren't saying after the first year. And then, on the defensive side of the ball, Max Crosby, and if they can continue to build around him, they got something cooking. So I think that's the recipe for Jimmy Garoppolo to be success. I'd expect them to definitely be better than they were last year. And if you had a gun in my head right now, regardless of who's in their conference or the division, I know a lot of people are going to look to this loaded AFC with star-studded quarterbacks everywhere. Jimmy G sneaking in wouldn't be something that surprises me at all.
What is this? July 22nd, July 23rd, July 24th. We're already doing. We're already breaking down opponents here. Locked on 49ers. That should tell you where Croc and my minds are at here as we're getting ready for football. I think there's a chance that Garoppolo could fit Josh McDaniels' system just maybe even a little bit better than Kyle Shanahan. It's not that McDaniels is a better offensive coordinator or a play designer or anything like that, or that the Raiders are better. They do have some nice weapons for him on offense. You mentioned the offensive line, and when you can throw to Devontae Adams and you got Hunter Renfrow in the slot, and Austin Hooper at tight end, plus they just drafted second rounder Michael Mayer, who a lot of people thought was the best tight end in this draft out of Notre Dame in the second round. By the way, in your fantasy leagues, might be a little sneaky play for you because Jimmy likes to target the middle of the football field. So Michael Mayer, the rookie tight end, might have a nice little season there. So yeah, there's some weapons at Jimmy's disposal, and I just think the system of kind of spreading things out, a little more shotgun, not as much play action, turning your back to the field and then getting tricked by that robber safety. I think that could help Jimmy Garoppolo in some ways. So a healthy Jimmy, I think, could have a pretty decent season, and they might have to throw the ball a lot because aside from Crosby and an aging Chandler Jones and Jerry Tillery on that defensive line for the Raiders, their back seven is not good. So that's another thing I'll be looking for in those joint practices and in the preseason game for the 49ers. Whoever's at quarterback is going to have an opportunity to torch those Raiders DBs.
I think as it comes to practice against the Raiders, I'm interested to see the battle between Fred Warner and Jimmy Garoppolo. Fred's going to talk that. He's going to talk that talk. He talks trash when you are his teammate. Just imagine when he's not your teammate and some of the things he'll probably say to Jimmy Garoppolo. I mean, and Jimmy Garoppolo is known to throw him a ball or two in practices. I can see Jimmy Garoppolo. I can see Fred Warner getting a little mouthy a little bit.
No doubt. Oh, and like the secrets that those guys all have, there's going to be some interesting trash talk happening there too. And so that's definitely going to be worth the price of admission to see those joint practices, because those get heated too. Every year, that's where the big scraps happen, right? Because finally you're practicing against somebody else and everyone's trying to be tough, and you see these bench clears at training camp practices every season. Sometimes the Niners, sometimes other teams. There's going to be a little scrap. So we'll see how that turns out. It's going to be fun with the 49ers and Raiders joint practices. It's going to be so much fun this season. I can't wait for it. I can't wait for all the loops that we are thrown for, Croc, because it's always chaos in the NFL. We think we know how it's going to go, but it's not going to go that way. And it's never easy, and it's always a lot of fun. So training camp getting going. I cannot wait. Croc, one more question for you here. You're at camp, first day, not counting quarterbacks. What player are you going to look for first? Who are you most excited to see?
Oh, man. Probably Deommodore Lenoir. Because it's that year where he's expected to kind of come in and be that guy, and people are questioning, man, who's going to play opposite Travarius Ward? I want to see how he fits in this defense. Listening to him and his confidence that he has in himself and how he's going about this offseason, I'm excited about that. And I don't know, there's just this different level of confidence that, like, once you feel like you are coming into your own, you kind of grasp and take hold of that. And I think that's where he's at now. And I just want to see what that looks like with him. So obviously there's a lot of tremendous stuff going on. I could have said Brandon Ayuk, but he cooks everybody every offseason anyways. Deebo Samuel, what does he look like? Is he in shape? But it doesn't even matter what he does in training camp. I know what he's going to do come season. For me, it's really Diamador Lenore. I think he's kind of the X factor of this team and defense for sure.
Diamo is going to be wearing that number 2 jersey, so he'll probably look a little faster even than what was he wearing, 38 before or something?
38.
That's a bad number. Yeah, he's going to be better just because of that one. I'm gonna probably look more at the trenches, Colton McKivitz and Drake Jackson specifically, and maybe those guys going head to head, right? Because it's so important how the 49ers offensive line plays. And there's a lot of competition there for some of the backup roles on the offensive line. And of course, who's going to be the dude opposite of Nick Bosa? And for the 49ers sake, hopefully it is last year's second rounder in Drake Jackson. And see what kind of shape he looks like he's in, and see what kind of shape Deebo looks like he's in. And the rookies too, like Jair Brown, like all the rookies, the rookie tight ends, that every year to see the new players for the first time in that jersey, in that NFL jersey for your team, that's always really fun for the fans. So can't wait to watch the rookies this camp as well. And of course, we'll have you covered every step of the way. Training camp, preseason, regular season, playoff football, right here, Locked On 49ers.
Subscribe to this video.